Ethical dilemmas do not exist. At least not the kind we typically experience. You know, the ones where we claim to not know what is the right thing to do. Situations like these. Your child comes home late from curfew, violates curfew, punish them, or give a warning to keep it friendly. Should you end a toxic or dangerous relationship, or should you stay for economic security and to avoid shame? Do I expose a corporate scandal that threatens a company's survival, or do I keep quiet to avoid threatening my career's survival? None of these are actually ethical dilemmas. They are defining moments, masquerading as ethical dilemmas. Defining moments that John Dewey said, form, reveal, and test our character. We know what's right. We simply fear doing what is right. But if we build our spirit, we can overcome fear and do right. Dilemma dismantled. So how can I claim that these aren't ethical dilemmas? Dr. Karen Allen, in The New Social Worker, described 3 conditions for an ethical dilemma. A decision needs to be made. There needs to be some choice around those decisions. And regardless of which decision you choose, an ethical principle is violated. Think Sophie's choice. Now, in the situations I just described, no ethical principles are violated, regardless of which choice you make. Look, we're committed to living good lives, so there isn't any quandary about what's right. Our ethos, our character, requires us to do right. And when we do right, we don't violate any ethical principles. So while it may be uncomfortable, unpopular, and difficult to do, that a dilemma does not make. What we typically call an ethical dilemma is nothing more than the choice between doing right or succumbing to fear. So what's right, and how do we know it? There's a difference between being right and knowing right. I always know right, but I'm not always right. Now, hearing that may come as a comfort to people who know me well, because they'll give you many examples where I've been powerfully wrong, and they'd be right. Perhaps you can relate to this among your friends, family, maybe yourself. But more important than being right is knowing right. And I really believe we always know right. Maya Angelou said this, and I believe Maya Angelou. She said, you don't really have to ask anybody. The truth is, right may not be expedient, it may not be profitable, but it will satisfy your soul. We know right because our conscience, that little voice inside, tells us to do something or not to do something. It's one of those things that makes us uniquely human, different from even our most closest relatives. Humans alone have this voice, and our voice is never wrong, as long as it's our authentic voice. So if you clear away the clutter, the noise, and remove the filters of insecurity and peer pressure, what are we left with? Our authentic voice. Listening to that voice tells us what's right, always. Unfortunately, we can find many examples of our human family not choosing right. Some may say you can find examples among unethical telemarketers, or greedy corporate leaders, or even religious leaders who guide us nowhere near the path of righteousness. So if we all know what is right, why aren't we listening to our voice? Lots of fear on lots of levels. We live in perpetual need of a fear fix, a crutch to get us a free pass, an excuse or justification not to do right. That's a fear fix. Now, all of us struggle at times with doing right and knowing right and fighting our fears. What are some of the fears that stop us? Well, I can tell you what stops me, what I'm afraid of. I'm a college professor, a writer, a community activist. In each of these realms, probably like many of us, I fear letting go, I fear looking bad, and I fear being wrong. And at times, my fear has stopped me from doing right. Being authentic is right, and so is protecting your privacy. I craftily avoided coming out until after I was tenured for fear of how that might impact my career. Ultimately, it was unfounded fear, as many are, but it stopped me from being authentic at work for 7 years. I wish I had remembered then the words of John Wooden, the UCLA basketball great. It's hard to find pictures of John these days. Anyway, he said, be more concerned with character than your reputation, because character is what you really are, and your reputation is just what others think you are. Yes. So what do you fear? Well, as we delve deeper into the power of fear, how do we understand those who choose not to do right, or even worse, people who are conditioned to threaten others in the name of right? People who are in cults, terrorists. Where's their authentic voice? Well, people who join cults, in a Baltimore Sun article as far back as 1993, said they do so because they are willing to go beyond the realms, beyond normalcy, just to get their deeply felt needs met. Catherine Louise Gypsy Scher, a member of the Charles Manson family, was an orphan. She was looking for a family. Fear of not belonging. She found it with Manson. Fear. That's what stopped their voice. That's what made them afraid. It stopped them from listening to their voice and to doing what's right. You know, and I think this even includes those born into cultures where inhumane behavior is the norm, such as terrorists. Look, fear may stifle our voice, but our voice is always recognizable. So the next step is to dismantle our fears. Now, an effective way to do that, manage and to minimize or to dismantle fears, is to confront the false securities they enable. What makes it false? Well, it's false because it gives us a semblance of feeling safe, secure, and confident. But, you know, it's only an illusion at best, a delusion at worst. Our spirit, what we know to be our soul inside us. Now, this helps us confront our illusions and delusions that create our fears. But it also helps us listen to our voice that always knows right. All right, let's step back for a moment. Now, I've asked you to consider that ethical dilemmas, as we typically know them, don't exist. Have I convinced you yet? Tackling the illusions and delusions of safety and security require us to accept the trade-offs that disempower our fear. So in this instance, trade-offs are good. We trade off fake safety and security on this side for conviction, commitment, and courage over here. When we do this, we can rely on our conviction to build commitment. But that requires courage. And then being courageous creates opportunities that develop our character, which is sustained by just wrapping ourselves in the support of a loving community without an agenda of its own. Specifically, accepting the trade-offs helps us develop confidence in our voice, which strengthens our conviction, our belief in what is right. Conviction facilitates commitment, our actions to do what is right. Our commitment, as Sandra Ford Walston, the courage expert, says, gives us the power to claim our courage. And with courage, we have the opportunity to shine in our defining moments. And finally, it's being part of a supportive and loyal community that really enables us to choose right and to do right consistently and constantly. So what I've just shared with you are what I call the 5 C's of spirit building: conviction, commitment, courage, character, and community. This is so not hard. We make it hard when we let fear and our inauthentic voice have too much power. We make it easy when we acknowledge that what we called ethical dilemmas are really defining moments. We meet these challenges when we dismantle the fears that stop us by building the spirit that empowers us. We can do this. As I end, I want to invite you to join me in this pledge. Now, in this moment, listen to your voice. Dismantle your fear and do right.